Hello there. Second season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds came to an end last week. So, this is a good time to talk about it, right? Or last week or a couple weeks ago, whenever I end up posting this. We'll see when I end up posting this. Anyway, yes, second season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds has come to an end, so figured I'd give my thoughts on it. On the whole, I still really enjoyed this series. I thought that it was, I thought that it's really good. I do like the way it fills the niche of sort of a classic Star Trek, doing sort of an adventure of the week type of thing. Uh, I think that's I like that. And I wish the seasons were longer so that we could get more of that because there's, a lot of potential for fun stuff to be done. Um, there was a lot of really good episodes this season. The season premiere didn't quite blow me away. Um, yeah, it was okay, but there were things about it that I was like, yeah, didn't really blow me away. But then the second season, Ad Astra per Aspera, phenomenal episode. Uh, like when it came out, I figured like that was going to be like one of the highlights of the season. But then there were a bunch of highlights of the season, bunch of best episodes of the season. But that one was really good. Um, Kind of harkened back to one of the classic episodes of Next Generation, The Measure of a Man, where uh, Data's rights were put on trial, whether he is a person under the law. This one sort of does sort of similar thing with Una number one. She is on trial for being genetically modified. Um, and I mean, it's one of those episodes that is very much meant to be evoking some modern day social and political and legal uh, debates. Um, a lot of people read a bit of a trans narrative into it. I also figured that there's a little bit of an immigration element to the metaphor. So sort of mixing, combining a few different metaphors, and it's just like a really strong legal episode that explored sort of the power of the law, I guess. One issue with it that I saw there, and I saw people pointing this out, it loses some of its power when you realize that over 100 years later, genetically modified people were still banned from serving in Starfleet. Deep Space Nine, Julian Dr. Bashir was genetically modified, and when that came out, it was a big deal because augments, genetically modified people, are not supposed to be able to serve. So, genetic modification is still legal. So, um, that discrimination was still going on over 100 years later. It kind of loses a bit of its. The episode kind of loses a bit of its punch when you realize that, when you make that realization. Um, Third episode with Lon and an alternate version of James Kirk going back in time. Really good episode. Sort of the serving to open Lon up a little bit. Fourth episode, pretty good. Uh, Fifth episode is far and away the most controversial of the season. And this is like, actually, I suppose not the most controversial, but second most. Because, like, the premise of that episode is Spock has his Vulcan genetics removed. So now he's just entirely human and has to pretend to still be Vulcan. And it's meant to be comedic, but some of the comedy feels just kind of feels like it falls flat, and a lot of people pointed out that, you know, the crew is being kind of dicks to Spock. You know, he's dealing with a really complicated situation and they just don't seem to be particularly empathetic towards him. And then, like, there's the idea of a bunch of humans trying to teach him how to be Vulcan. Like, that's just, again, they have to teach him to be. They have to teach him how he used to behave, and it's like, but like, no, he spent his whole life as a Vulcan. So it's just kind of a weird thing to do. It was the episode where Uhura keeps having hallucinations. It was really good. I really liked the episode where she kept having hallucinations. That one was another really good sort of classic Trek episode with a weird mystery about what's happening and sort of exploring other forms of life and things like that. That was really good. The crossover with Lower Decks. Oh, loved that one. The Lower Decks crossover was definitely a highlight. That one was so much fun. Just an incredibly fun episode. And, like, you could tell that both Jack Quaid as Boimler and Tawny Newsome as Lower Decks, they were both having a blast playing their characters in live action, and it was interesting seeing them in live action. And you know, they definitely tried to get the same sort of mannerisms that their characters have in the animated version. Yeah, like similar ways they sort of move. They try to sort of duplicate sort of how their animated counterparts move. Seeing the Boimler scream in live action. That one was a great episode. That one, I mean, that was one of the ones I was looking forward to ever since it was announced that there was going to be a Lower Decks crossover. Like, yeah, that was just one of those episodes that I was looking forward to from the beginning, because Lower Decks is so good, and they bring that sense of fun over to Strange New Worlds, and, like, not just fun, but, like, fun that also sort of hides how deep it is. Also, we're saying, as a few people pointed out, one of the first times we ever really got to see more of Ortega's personality than flying the ship. Shit. Ortega's whole spotlight episode, the whole point was My name is Erica Ortegas. I fly the ship. Her spotlight episode was about the fact that she flies the ship. Like really, that's the only thing that matters about her is that she flies the ship and occasionally makes snarky comments. It really wasn't until until those old scientists that they sort of showed that there was more to her than just flying the ship. Reference to her being a war hero. She references the war when telling Uhura to relax. Young. She serves an actual purpose beyond just flying in that episode. Um, it's funny as that one is then followed up by one of the darkest episodes of the series, uh, which is just an examination of being a war veteran, the PTSD that comes from being a war veteran, and again, phenomenal episode. Mbenga is incredible in it. Ortega gets a couple nice moments there as well, showing that she's still pissed off about the war, that she's still got issues related to the war, while Mbenga and Chapel have their shell shock. So that one was a really good heavy episode, which was followed by the musical episode, which is again another highlight. Really, really fun, and I do like that. Again, Uhura gets to be a huge part of the story in the musical episode. That she is a huge element of that musical episode because she was, that's actually part of her character back in the 60s in the original series, is that she was, she liked music. She would regularly just sing. There were a few occasions where she would be singing. Musical obviously matters to her. And, it makes for a really fun episode that also explores the characters and some of the relationships with each other and progresses certain relationships. One thing I will say, they did a musical episode, an entire musical episode, with no gayness. That just feels homophobic, None of them are like no gay shit going on in a musical. Come on, that just feels. And I'll actually talk a bit more about that in a minute. So yeah, another really fun episode, and then the finale, the series season finale, with which did end with a really cool cliffhanger. Been a long time since we've had Star Trek ending seasons with cliffhangers. It's kind of fun to have that brought back. And yeah, interesting episode with the Gorn, and it's definitely very tense. Yeah, good cliffhanger. And I am trying to avoid any serious spoilers, so I won't say anything. Too spoilery. One concern: Montgomery Scott shows up. Scotty shows up in the final episode. Fun, it's a fun thing to do. I do actually hope he doesn't become part of the ongoing cast. Like in all honesty, I do hope he doesn't become part of the ongoing cast because they've already got a lot of characters who haven't gotten enough development as it is. Ortega, Ortegas, Erica Ortegas has not gotten anywhere near as much development as she deserves. Um, and I mean, like they've got a really good cast of characters. You know, it is a really cool, interesting set of characters that they have on the show already. I worry that bringing Scotty in would sort of be a distraction from the cast they already have. It would be more of hey, look at these classic characters, look at the classic people, and we've already got Spock, Chapel, and Uhura as characters from the original series. Yeah, we've already got those three, seeing their early days. I don't know that we necessarily need to have more of the original series cast, or not cast, but the original series characters joining the crew, because they got 3 seasons and 6 movies. Let's have a little bit more of the originals. Like, yeah, they got 66 episodes. I think it was 60. I believe 66 episodes of the original series, or 68 something, 60 something episodes for the original series, and then they got 6 movies. So they got plenty of focus already. So I don't think that we really need to see more of them. You know, Scotty, Bones, if they bring him in, you know, if they have him show up for season 3. And we've already had 3 episodes? 2 or 3 episodes this. Yeah, basically 3 episodes this season that heavily featured James Kirk. I don't think that we really need to have any of the other original series characters taking a screen time away from the cast that's already there. Also, give us more Ortegas. Give us some better focus on Ortegas. Anyway, all that said, I do have another complaint. Season 2 of Strange New Worlds is the most aggressively heterosexual Star Trek of this generation. It is aggressively heterosexual. There are 3 romances throughout the season that get like ongoing subplots throughout the season. All of them straight. There's Pike and Captain Batel. You know, that's sort of an ongoing thing throughout the season, with one of the episodes sort of hinging very heavily on his feelings for her. There's Spock and Chapel, of course, which I don't buy. I don't buy the relationship. I don't like it. And again, major ongoing plot point throughout the season. And then there's Lon and James Kirk. Again, ongoing throughout the season. There was literally no queer content in this entire season. Not even a throwaway line. You know, first season didn't have much. It had a couple throwaway lines. You know, it had Chapel made a throwaway line that indicated that she's bi. There was an episode that revealed that Mbenga's daughter ships a couple of female characters in a storybook. Sure. And got some fun, barely subtext at one point in that episode. And then there was an episode that featured a non-binary character. Actually, was she non-binary or was that character non-binary? Were they trans? But Angel. Yeah. So trans woman as a absolutely. Oh, hey, trans woman. Well, trans woman now. In 2022, I don't know if she'd come out as trans or if she was still using non-binary at that point. Anyway, she was a really entertaining antagonist in one episode. And this season had absolutely nothing along those lines. Just, a little bit disappointing. Um, and it wouldn't necessarily be as big an issue, except that season 3 of Picard, also pretty heterosexual. You know, first season of Picard didn't really have that much in the way of romantic stuff going on anyway, and the one romance that it did have was toxic. Second season of Picard did have Seven and Raffi, but then season 3 broke them up off screen and barely had them barely interact for the rest of the season. So the fact that season 3 of Picard went pretty straight, and then season 2 of Strange New Worlds went completely straight. It's setting a bad precedent, I think. It's not promising. It's like really hoping that that's not the an indication of how the franchise is planning to go forward. They need to keep the queer shit. They can't just be. They can't just be straight washing Star Trek. They can't just be ignoring the queer shit. We do have season 5 of Discovery coming out, but that's going to be the final season of Discovery. And, who knows what else they're going to come up with. Who knows what other shows will come out. While I'm complaining, seems they're also going to be taking Star Trek Prodigy off the streaming service, which, dudes, no. Aside from Star Trek Prodigy being a really good show, just keep the damn thing on your streaming service. It sucks enough that it's getting canceled. Don't remove it from your friggin' streaming service, Paramount. Don't be dicks. Anyway, those minor complaints aside, yeah, it was really fun. On a side note, I love that both the Lower Decks episode and the musical episode sort of played around with the intro. So, like, for the Lower Decks crossover, the whole introductory thing is animated. They just switched to an animated thing, including the big alien, like that big weird space slug or whatever it is, just sort of sucking on the nacelle. You know, you get 3 shots where the alien is sucking on the nacelle, which is such a cute reference to the Lower Decks intro, having a shot like that. And yeah, it's just like, it's such a fun way of doing it, and just such a fun little nod to the fact that it's a crossover with the animated series. And then the musical episode for the intro, the music is done a cappella. It's just people singing the theme song, which again, delightful. Absolutely one delightful way of doing it. And again, a nod to the fact that, you know, this is not a regular episode. That was the most controversial episode, I think. A lot of people who hate modern Star Trek for not being classic Star Trek, a lot of those people hated it. I will say, anyone who claims that it's the worst episode of Star Trek ever, Code of Honor. Oh, I know you've wiped that episode from your memory. I know you've tried to wipe that episode from your memory. I know you've tried to just forget that episode ever existed. But it happened. That episode happened. Nothing can ever be the worst episode of Star Trek when that one happened. The episode that everyone involved has, like the episode that everyone describes as the racist episode. Yeah, no. You don't like the musical one? Fine. Fair. Worst episode of Star Trek ever? Not when the racist episode exists. Let's keep things in perspective here. Anyway, yeah, like I said, so those people all hated it. That said, the episode that had the lowest rating out of all of them actually was Charades, the Spock becomes human episode. That one, on Rotten Tomatoes, that one has at present a at least at one point it did have an 83% rating. Yeah, that one has an 83% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. All the others are higher. So that one was the one that was received the most poorly overall. Even if it didn't get all the whining that the musical episode got for being a musical episode. Because heaven forbid that Star Trek have fun. It's not like there haven't been multiple episodes in other series where music played a key role. Remember the episode of Deep Space Nine where Odo confessed his feelings to Kira through the power of music? That was a good episode. Anyway, so yeah. All that to say, on the whole, I did enjoy Season 2 of Strange New Worlds. Um, I am glad that there will be a season 3. I do wish there were more episodes per season because I just like Star Trek. I want more Star Trek all the time. But but I did enjoy what we got. So yeah, thanks for watching my video, and I'll see you in another one. Until then, live long and prosper.